Alright guys, let's get started on year 3 for the 2-bit review. What do you got?
Alright, here's what I got. Megan Fox, Christian Bale, Charlie Chaplin, Steven Spielberg, and the legend himself will be fucking gold. Alright, so what we do, they're making a new film together. And guess who's involved? None other than 2-bit Jesus. Alright, so you walk in the room. Alright, shirt's off. Hair's covering your nips. You're looking good. Belly's showing. We'll draw some abs, don't worry. Let's look good. So, then there's Megan Fox. Looking sexy, naked on the bed. Right next to her, guess who? Whoopi Goldberg, naked, looking sexy. That's when you walk in. Dick's ready to go. All of a sudden, Steven Spielberg jumps in the room. But guess what he's always been? From Jurassic Park. You know why he made that film? Because he's a shark. Yeah, makes sense, doesn't it? He comes in there ready to chomp away. Chomp, chomp, chomp. All of a sudden, you're like, grab the first thing you can. Your weapon, Whoopi Goldberg. You smash her. Smash him. I don't know. You smash somebody. I love it. You love it. We all love it. Everybody loves it.
Well, alright. Drew, what do you got?
I'm a mannequin.
Alrighty then, Jonathan, my last hope. What do you got?
Alright, so first 2-bit is gonna he's gonna find a meteorite and he's gonna touch it and it's gonna give him the power to review video games in outer space, and he can breathe in outer space, and then he's gonna meet an alien, and the alien's gonna come and he's gonna put an implant in his brain. It's gonna make it to where he can play any system and any kind of system in any kind of game that he ever had ever.
Okay. Well, you know what? I quit.
Wait, what? What? Why?
Because I'm frankly tired of all this. Our stories have become too complicated and convoluted. I started this channel to talk about video games, and I feel like we've gotten away from that. And honestly, most people don't even show up for their lines. Me and Jonathan have to record most of them, and when we do that, we have to use crude animation. My kids run at the sight of me, and my wife is disgusted by my very touch.
I know, she tells me every night.
And honestly, what do we have to show for it? You know, we have just a handful of viewers, and most of them are us. There's only one that actually shows up and watches all of our videos who isn't us. You know what? I'm done with this. I have one more review left in me, and it's going to be the series I started with. I'm reviewing Streets of Rage 3.
2-bit, are you sure you want to end this? I mean, things were just really getting good.
Yeah, in fact, my idea of a living hell would be trapped in a basement somewhere and forced to play and review video games.
Sounds like a couple of girls I know. Well, if you're serious about this, why don't we go out with a bang, like the way it originally was presented? 2-bit Jesus, Playsatan, doing a review together.
That's how I always wanted it to be. Let's do this.
Fade to head. I mean, nothing, Grandma.
Well, here we are. 2-bit Jesus.
Where are we?
Playsatan.
How did I get here?
I invited you. You said you were going to do it with me. My last one.
Oh, yes.
This is it. My last one. Gonna retire.
I've really been drinking
after this. Yeah. This is. It's fitting that we end it here. And so, with that said,
I hate to see it end.
Me too. But as you saw in that meeting,
Clip.
that clip that I was not happy.
I almost felt like it was edited together and then put on YouTube.
Yes, it did. So anyway, let's jump into the tidbits.
Streets of Rage 3 was a side-scrolling beat-em-up. Lots of boobies, and it was awesome.
Yeah. Somehow I just knew you were going to be behaving this way, Playsatan, so I brought in a friend to help. Everybody please join me in giving a warm welcome to Pete from Onaretrotip. He's going to be doing the Tidbits, and then joining us later on to give his final thoughts on Streets of Rage 3.
Streets of Rage 3, or Bare Knuckle 3 in Japan, is a side-scrolling beat-em-up published and developed by Sega for the Sega Genesis. The North American, European and Japanese versions were released within days of each other in March 1994. Aside from being the last installment in one of the best beat-em-up franchises in gaming, Streets of Rage 3 has some weird tidbits in regional differences. When Streets of Rage 3 was localised from the original Japanese version, significant changes were made. The clothing of Axel, Blaze and Skate were altered from their original colours seen in the previous games, and the female enemy characters wore less revealing outfits.
Wait, what? They wore less revealing clothing? I want all my ladies to be sexy. I want my women sexy and my men flaming. Where's Blaze and her taunting me with her sexual ways? Why isn't she winking at me like in the first one?
You need to get out more.
I'm so lonely. I like your long hair.
So let's get back to the review.
And the sub-boss Ash, an outlandishly gay stereotype, was removed from the English language versions.
What?
I bet you know how to make a gay person come out.
Oh yeah, well you get the controller, you put the code in and... Hey, wait a minute! I'm not gay!
What, are you saying you don't want gay people in video games?
No, it wasn't like that. I didn't mean it like that.
Kinda sounds homophobic. Or that you're repressing some homosexual feelings?
Back to the review.
So, yeah. The voice effects are also changed, most noticeably Axel's catchphrase Grand Upper for his semi-special move being replaced with Bare Knuckle. Another difference is the plot. The Japanese version of the story opens with a new explosive substance discovered by a character named Dr. Gilbert, aka Dr. Zan, which explodes in the city and kills thousands of people. At the same time, a military general named Ivan Petrov vanishes. It is later discovered that Mr. X orchestrated the general's disappearance and plans to use this explosive to start a global war. In the English version, all references to Raxine the explosive are removed, General Petrov is replaced by the city's chief of police, and the plot now involves a scheme to switch major city officials with robot replicants in order to take control of the city.
You know, let's just get Rick Deckard in there and he'd solve the problem real quick if there's a bunch of robot replicants.
Yeah, or that new guy, Ryan Gosling. No?
Let's not get him.
No,
He'll just show his sexy abs. And Blaze won't be mine anymore.
Why are there a lot of differences in between these versions, you may ask? Well, as most of us already know, the early to mid 90s were a tumultuous time for video games, with the US Congress posturing to regulate the video game industry in reaction to more mature games like Mortal Kombat and to a lesser extent Night Trap rising in popularity and becoming more prevalent on home consoles. Because of this, Sega self-censored its games in reaction to this pressure. The game's difficulty was also altered. The English version's normal setting is significantly more difficult than the Japanese version's hard setting. Also, the English version of the game cannot be completed on easy, instead ending after stage 5. This was very unusual, as if anything the norm was for Japanese games to be the harder versions, as developers in Japan thought that higher difficulties would put Western gamers off. So with these tidbits out of the way, let's bare knuckle into this review.
The gameplay, like its predecessor, is solid. The controls are smooth, responsive, and most importantly, fun. It is very satisfying to beat the crap out of a bunch of baddies on the screen. This formula still holds up great, even in the franchise's third installment. Are you alright, man?
Yeah, I just really like to beat up Donovan.
Why's that?
I don't know. All Donovans I know are pieces of shit.
Yeah, especially that because he's bald, wearing sunglasses, no shirt, freaking ripped in his blue jeans and boots.
And he's hung like a horse. That's all Donovans are.
Wait a minute. Is all this information in the game?
Now, the Western port's high difficulty curve does bring down the fun factor in some aspects, but overall it is a fun experience with a few frustrating sections added in.
The game does make minor improvements to the Streets of Rage formula. Streets of Rage 3 is more fast-paced than its predecessors. Running and vertical dodge moves were added to the game. The level timer has been replaced with a power meter that, when full, allows you to perform special moves without losing life. Unlike the first two games, weapons in Streets of Rage 3 can only be used a set number of times, meaning they have their own life bar. The game brings back Streets of Rage 3's team attacks, which means two characters can work together to perform more powerful attacks. Pitfalls are back from the original game as well, meaning you can throw enemies once again into pits or off the side of an elevator. The AI was improved, with some enemies being able to pick up weapons, block, perform cooperative attacks. Usually a Big Ben henchman will throw one of the Garcias at you. They can now even steal exposed food items to regain health. Three of the playable characters from the previous games return: Axel Stone, the balanced fighter; Skate, who is by far the fastest character; Dr. Zan replaces Max from the second game as the tank character. With a twist, any weapon he picks up turns into a ball of energy. Adam from the first game makes a cameo, and Max only makes a cameo in the game's good ending.
And of course we have the best character in the game, Blaze Fielding, who has a better special attack and also is more agile. Sadly, she's not wearing the sexy outfit from the second and first one.
Back to the game. Three of the game's boss characters can also be unlocked through cheat codes. The first sub-boss, Ash, Shiva, Mr. X second in command from Streets of Rage 2, and Rue the Kangaroo, who can be unlocked by defeating his master, but not him in their boss battle.
Of course, this is what we always wanted to play in a fighting game, is a giant kangaroo. I mean, what kid in the 1990s didn't want to play a giant kangaroo beating up Donovan?
That kid. Shiva, Rue, and Ash are unable to use weapons, though.
The bosses, a main feature of any great beat-em-up, are sort of lacking in this game. They are there and give you a challenge, but I feel they aren't as memorable as, say, the levels themselves. And a few of the fights feel like repeats from Streets of Rage 2, like Mecha Shiva and Mr. X. But the final boss, Robot Y, is pretty great. It's a nice change of pace compared to the Mr. X fights from the previous two games, though I still think the Mr. X fight from the first one is probably my favorite.
All in all, though, the gameplay at its core is still the same as Streets of Rage 2, with a few adjustments to improve what was already a solid gameplay experience. Streets of Rage 3's solid and fun controls combined with the high difficulty curve give gameplay 3 bits.
Bare knuckle! I would disagree slightly, and I'm going to give it 2.5 beers out of 4. That's only because of the high curve in difficulty and the lack of sexy Blaze. And also, it just wasn't as memorable as 1 and 2. And I don't know what it is, but they will always outplay this game.
The game's soundtrack was composed by the returning and awesome sauce composer Yuzo Koshiro. Madahiro Kawashima returns as well, who worked with Yuzo on Streets of Rage 2. The soundtrack in Streets of Rage tradition features influences that were popular in nightclubs at the time. For the soundtrack, Koshiro created a new composition method. It was one of the most advanced electronic music creation techniques at the time, incorporating heavily randomized sequences. This created innovative experimental sounds generated automatically. The game's soundtrack is solid,
but I feel it comes just short of the bar that Koshiro set in Streets of Rage 2. That's kind of a personal opinion, though. It doesn't mean the music is awful or mediocre. It just doesn't stack up to the Streets of Rage 2, and that rocked it way better.
All the sound effects from Streets of Rage 2 are there, and they have the same great quality minus Axel's missing grand upper line. So in summation, we give Streets of Rage 3's sound 3 bits and 3 beers out of 4. I feel this is one area of Streets of Rage 3 that actually surpasses Streets of Rage 2 in some aspects. Not all aspects, but some. I love the use of colors with the sprites. They are just as big and detailed as Streets of Rage 2, but has the dark grittiness of Streets of Rage 1. The cutscenes really add to the narrative of the game, where in the previous titles you got an opening and ending scene with little else to advance the story. In Streets of Rage 3, you get cutscenes for every stage that really progresses the game along. Sadly, because of the censorship in the Western version, some scenes are a bit jarring in the game. The level design, like its predecessor, is solid, with added time limits and objectives for some levels. This is really where Streets of Rage 3 shines, compared to its predecessors. The plot is as follows, and FYI, we have the Western version, so that's what we're going to be reviewing.
After being defeated twice, Syndicate crime boss Mr. X has started a research company called Robokai Corporation to act as a cover-up for his illegal activities. Compared to his legal activities. The world's best roboticist, Dr. Dom or Dam, have been brought in to help him create an army of realistic sexual robots to replace important officials from the city.
Wait a minute, that's not how it goes.
Oh no, it's all sexual, all the time. Mr. X plans to rule the city from behind the scenes. His criminal organization, the Syndicate, has strategically placed bombs around the city to distract the police while the city officials are dealt with. Dr. Zane, who is working with Robicity, discovered what the research is really for and knows the Syndicate must be stopped. He contacts Blaze Fielding, the most sexual agent ever, with the details of the Syndicate's plot. Blaze quickly contacts Axel and Adam to help bring down the Syndicate once and for all.
That's not really how it goes, Playsatan. Essentially, Mr. X is up to his old tricks again. He wants to control the city, but this time he's using robot replicants to replace top city officials, and he has planted bombs all across the city to keep the police preoccupied while he does so. It's up to the old gang of Streets of Rage 2, plus the disillusioned roboticist Dr. Zan, to save the day. So yeah, anyway, Axel quickly joins, but Adam can't make it due to his own assignments within the police, and sends his younger brother Skate instead.
Wait, younger brother? That has rollerblades? Like, what type of top secret agent does? That's the worst brothering ever. Hey, let me send my 12-year-old child to go take down the mob boss, because I'm really busy painting pictures of flowers.
Well, I mean, it's the 90s, he has the rollerblades, the backwards cap.
Oh, so cool.
So cool. So rad.
Bitchy.
So our band of heroes sets out across 7 stages to battle it out in the Streets of Rage. The game has 4 endings depending on the difficulty level, and if you defeat certain levels in an allotted time. There is the easy mode ending where Robot X in stage 5 is the last boss. After defeating him, you see an unresolved ending with Mr. X that hints at playing the next difficulty mode. If you fail to save the Chief of Police, you play an alternate round 7 going to City Hall. At the end of this, you have to face a stronger Shiva, who is the first stage boss, as the last boss. Once defeated, the screen pans to Mr. X angry, but still alive and in power. If you rescue the chief, you play the true stage 7, the robot facility, where you find out that Mr. X is just a brain and is now controlling the robots.
What a twist!
It's always a brain at the end of these games. Every single time. It's this giant brain. Why are we fighting so many brains? And it reminds me of that Futurama scene.
The big brain am winning again. I am the greatest. Mwah! Now I am leaving Earth for no reason.
You are expected to defeat Robot Y, the final boss, within a time limit.
Mr. X, in his last-ditch effort, activates bombs around the city for detonation. If you beat it after the timer expires, the bomb will still detonate, completely ruining the city, leaving you with a very bitter end.
If you destroy Robot Y before the timer expires, the bombs are defused and the city is saved. This is the best and true ending of the game, showing the gang relaxing and Zan appears to be leaving town. The last scene shows our heroes from across the series, minus Zan, reunited together, looking as the sun sets on the city. The presentation in Streets of Rage 3 is the best of the series, with improved graphics, level design, cutscenes in between levels to advance the plot, and multiple endings. This game has a lot going for it, and I think the positives far outweigh the negatives, i.e. some of the jarring cutscenes that were altered because of self-censorship by Sega, or the first level having a huge chunk cut out of it due to, again, censorship. In summation, we give Streets of Rage 3's presentation 4 bits, 4 beers out of 4.
So in summary guys, I think that Streets of Rage 3 is really worth your time. The game gets a bit of a bad rap, I think, because most people played the first two in their childhood, and the third one came out quite late, so fewer people played it and it gets a bit of a bad rap. Now having said that, it's probably my least favourite of the trilogy, but I still play it quite often and I really enjoy it. I'd actually recommend picking up Bare Knuckle 3, the Japanese version, because as mentioned in the video, there are some regional differences, just makes that a bit of a better game. Plus the Western difficulty is just balls hard. Whoever set the difficulty level on that game is a masochist, so definitely the Japanese version is better for me with the difficulty. Now it's got so many good things going for it. It's got some great level design, it's still got great music, but I do find that the pacing isn't as good as Streets of Rage 2. But I hold Streets of Rage 2 in really high regard. It's probably one of my favourite games of all time on any system of any genre. So yeah, like I said, I think Streets of Rage 3 is still a great game. Great level design, some great music. It's really fun at the end of the day, and that's all you can ask for. So I definitely recommend it.
Streets of Rage 3 is an awesome game.
But it doesn't surpass Streets of Rage 2, with its difficulty level greatly increased, and of course the changes to the Western story plot.
Streets of Rage 3 did, however, I think come very close to Streets of Rage 2 with its multiple endings, the cutscenes added, and of course the presentation, and the various improvements they did to the gameplay and level design. So our final verdict for Streets of Rage for the Sega Genesis is a recommended look for the casual and a definite buy for the hardcore collector of the Sega Genesis.
And of course you can find this on Amazon for about 15 to 60 bucks depending on what you want from it.
And with that guys, that's it for the final 2-bit review. Thanks for sticking with us for the last 2 years. It's been an awesome ride, and we really appreciate all the love and support that you've given us. And for one last time, stay safe and play on.
Wonder what this does.
What? What's here? Oh! A game! Sweet. Oh, another game! Awesome. Super Mario Brothers 3. What's this? Another game! This is just too awesome. Love games. Another game! Eternal Champions. This will be my 25th copy. Love this game. Holy crap, another game! Dream Master. Well, I'm gonna master you. Holy crap, another game! It's my lucky day. Oh, not so lucky. That's this quest. Holy crap, another piece of game! And looky here, Chrono Trigger. It's my lucky day. Hey guys, before we go here, I just want to thank Pete from Onaretrotip for collaborating with us on this video. I really appreciate it. Thank you for being a part of this review with us. If you guys want to check out his channel, I have the link in the description below. Plus, I'm also going to put a link to his channel on the screen, so you can just click on the annotation and check out his channel. It is awesome. This dude is a wealth of knowledge, and his videos are very well produced, and I enjoy watching them. And so please check him out. And once again, Pete, thanks for joining us on this review. And as always, guys, stay safe and play on.